I will never learn my lesson when it comes to popcorn. I keep eating it like it doesn't get stuck in my teeth every time. You know, like the little flakes, the little half popped kernels. Whoever came up with popcorn, like it's half brilliant, half diabolical. I'm just saying. I just had some popcorn as like an after lunch snack. I had a nice, like little tuna fish and pasta thing for lunch. And I said tuna fish like I'm some sort of 1950s Midwesterner. Tuna. Tuna, like there's tuna birds or something. Anyway, I had some popcorn as an after lunch snack, just a couple of small handfuls of popcorn. And I got to be honest, what a mistake that was. Speaking of mistakes, how about those encrypted messages, huh? Let's talk about it. So the people in charge of our military and stuff decided to take to an app called Signal. It's an encrypted messaging app called Signal, and invite a bunch of the people onto this group chat where they talked about the specifics of this bombing that they were doing in Yemen, and what planes were going to be where and what they were going to strike and all that stuff. Stuff that probably shouldn't be done on personal cell phones, be my guess. This app is not allowed on government cell phones, for starters. The app itself may be encrypted, but each individual's personal phone could be, compromised. So anybody on the chat could be compromised. But beyond that, there were like 14 members of the Trump administration on there, and they invited the editor-in-chief of the Atlantic magazine, a reporter by the name of Jeff Goldberg. And so he thought he was being punked. And then when he received all these messages, and he's just sitting there going, what is going on? And then it turns out that they were actually the war plans that were about to happen over the weekend. And then when the bombing happened, he left the group chat because he just realized he actually was in a bad place. Anyway, so they used a device. Wait, they used an app on their personal devices, which they're not supposed to do. They discussed information that was at the very least considered secret, if not top secret, because military operation plans are classified at the highest levels usually. And they did so on an app that does away with all of the records of what happened in the chat after a set amount of time, and they set it for 7 days. Well, this goes against the Records Retention Act. Every communication that happens between federal employees is archived because we're supposed to be able to know what our government is doing. Even if it's top secret, it's archived in a top secret place so that people with that kind of clearance can always figure out what was going on. See, we're supposed to keep these records. And this is the same thing that, let's see, Ivanka and Jared, the Kush, and Ivanka Trump, they did all their federal business on personal emails. So we don't know how much of their records were actually archived again. And it's the same thing that cost Hillary Clinton basically everything. Does anybody remember Benghazi? They researched this stuff for 2 years, and they chased her emails and things like that. And it was just like this nonstop demonization of this woman for failing to take care of classified materials, even though none of the materials on her private email server were classified at the time. They were later reclassified as classified, not secret or top secret, but classified as the lowest classification. There were a couple of items that were reclassified as classified. Anyway, boy, the right was just like, remember that lock her up chance? That was what it was about. Lock her up. Failure to protect national security. So what is the lock her up crowd saying about this unbelievable failure to protect our national security? Oopsie, it's a mistake. Wasn't really classified anyway. Whatever. So I tell you, hypocrisy is hypocrisy, and the Republican Party is notorious for it all the time, every day, no matter what. Blah, 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 blah. They say one thing, then do another. They say things today that they'll go back and say the exact opposite on years later. See handling confidential material, top secret materials. They, you could actually probably prosecute them in a modern court of law for shit that they said themselves years ago, that they just decide no longer matters because now it's somebody else doing it. And that's the kind of cynical bullshit that people hate about Washington, and they wash it like, or about politicians, we're going to wash both sides with that same brush. There are dishonest people in this world. Yeah, all the time. It is what it is. People lie. This problem does exist on both sides, but it's not like 50% of this happens over here and the other 50% happens over here. No. It's like 98% of the hypocrisy, bullshit, and lying happens from the Republican Party. And then there's like a little bit on the left, on the Democratic Party. And when that happens, it's people like Cuomo, who gets thrown out of office. It's people like Bob Menendez, the former senator from New Jersey, who got convicted of failure to register as a foreign agent and accepting bribes as a senator. Whoa, dude, Bob Menendez, you piece of shit. It's the same set of laws that like Paul Manafort was found guilty of and then pardoned by Donald Trump. Oh, and by the way, the Trump Department of Justice has announced that they're no longer going to be prosecuting those crimes. So just to let you know that foreign bribery is now perfectly legal. Well, not legal, just not going to be. It's like having a law that they're just not going to enforce. So whatever. The corruption's in plain sight. The hypocrisy's in plain sight. The idiocy is in plain sight. It's incompetence. This is straight up incompetence. And I've said this multiple times. There are ways to do almost all of the things that they want to accomplish. Legal ways where you involve Congress, you go through all the mechanizations and you make it happen. But in their rush to instill basically a dictatorship, a despotic dictatorship where the king tells us what to do, they just ignore all that shit. Everything from failing to give Venezuelan immigrants due process. We don't even know if they're Venezuelan. And if you think, well, they don't make mistakes. They supposedly sent 261 people. That's what they claim. But 8 were sent back because they were women. And they were only supposed to send men. Tell me that they don't make mistakes. They make mistakes all the time because they're moving fast and they're breaking shit and they don't fucking care who or what gets damaged or hurt in the process. And you see, that's the problem. There's a lack of care. There's a lack of thoughtfulness. There's just utter shamelessness. Take Social Security, for example. Leon Mush, and the Doge bags are closing 26 offices. I think it is. I don't know. The number keeps going up. They're closing in-person Social Security offices. And they've already disabled the phone centers. So if you are a retiree and you have a problem with your Social Security, no longer can you call Social Security, which always led to long wait times anyway, but these retirees would wait hours on end to speak to a representative to get their problems solved. Social Security is a contract that all of these people, including me and the people who work right now, have been signed up for since the day we started working. And you pay into Social Security throughout your life. And in return, when you reach retirement age, you start to receive Social Security benefits. There's like a $2.7 trillion funds just sitting there waiting to be doled out to the people who have earned that. They've paid into it. They've earned it. The right evilly refers to them as entitlements that must be reformed. Well, it's an entitlement. It means you're entitled to that program because you paid into it your entire life. Just like Medicare, you're paying into Medicare as you work. So, the Doge bags, and Leon Mush have moved fast into Social Security and they've broken it. And they're adding a new stipulation that people have to make an in-person visit to verify their existence. Now, it's unclear so far as to how many people this affects, but they say upwards of 7 million relatively new Social Security recipients are going to have to go into a Social Security office to prove that they're still alive. The same offices that they're closing so many of. And in the case of one Washington retiree, they announced he was dead and stopped his payments. And then not only that, but they went into his bank account and they took back payments. And it was totaling $5,206 they took from this old guy. And here's the problem. Not dead. Not dead. So they make mistakes all the time in their rush to do something that is illegal. All these things are illegal, by the way. When you fuck with these things, like we're going to do away with the Department of Education. No. The Department of Education was created by law. By law. That law still exists. The Department of Education, therefore, still exists, and no president can just erase a law with a pen. An executive order is basically it's a fancy ass memo to people in the executive branch to do this or do that. But they don't carry the weight of law. They're not laws. They are adjustments in the way laws are being enforced or carried out, sometimes illegal. In the case of Trump, usually illegal. Most of his EOs are temporarily restrained so that they can rewrite them. And the thing is, there's this group in the White House called the White House Counsel. And the White House Counsel is basically the lawyer for the presidency, not the president himself, in this case himself, but the office of the presidency. And that office, the White House Counsel, is supposed to review executive orders for constitutionality and give their blessing as to whether or not they can be signed into effect. Well, they're not doing that anymore. They're just not doing it anymore. Trump is ruling by caveat. He is making decisions and he is throwing around executive orders like they're law, and they're not. And they're disappearing immigrants. They are breaking laws left, right, and center. Doge isn't even a real thing. I've said this many times on this podcast. There was no law creating Doge. We do not understand what they are mandated to do. They do not have a set of powers, yet for some reason, they're allowed into every computer system. They're allowed into every government agency, sometimes through force of violence and physical threats. In other words, they're bringing U.S. Marshals with them, armed guards to get them through doors. all against the law, all of it. And the laws are not standing up, and the people who should be enforcing them are not standing up. Washington, D.C. has a police force that is run by the city that should be stopping them from trespassing into these D.C. buildings, these office buildings. You can't do what you're doing. Full stop. These people, if they are federal employees, we don't even know. How are they being paid? We have no idea. We live in this ridiculous, dangerous, confusing, convoluted time, and it gets worse all the time. And the people who are in charge right now are evil and incompetent, which is, that's a bad fucking combination. And all it takes is shit like this, war plans on an encrypted app, to prove it. And here's the thing. None of them are denying that they had these discussions. They're denying that they were classified information, that they were sensitive material. How are pending war plans, attack plans, not sensitive material, not classified material? We know it's classified material. Stop gaslighting us. Stop with the bullshit. And that's the thing. Every time they get caught doing something wrong, they just fucking lie. They just lie. Tulsi Gabbard, Daniel Radcliffe, what's his first name? Ken? The CIA director. That asshole. Anyway, the CIA director Radcliffe. Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel. These people all were on Capitol Hill in front of the Senate yesterday testifying about threats to the nation. And of course, this had come out. So they got asked a lot of questions about it. And it turns out they perjured the bejesus out of themselves. They lied. And they lied, and then they lied some more, and then they lied again, and they gaslit us all, and they lied some more. And you know, I'm tired of being lied to, just like everyone else should be. I did a whole podcast on this. It's the lying, the constant, nonstop deluge of bullshit that we are fucking drowning in. That should drive us all crazy. It's working for me. I've lost my damn mind. I can't stand watching the news. I can't stand here's another 90-second montage of these people lying to you. Easily provable lies. Now there's reasons to lie. Either A, you don't fucking know. Here's a good example of lying because you don't know. Donald Trump claims that tariffs are going to fix everything. Tariffs are this, tariffs are that. We charge other countries tariffs because, and then they pay them and it's going to fill up our coffers. Okay. No, tariffs are a tax that ends up being paid by the United States customer. I'll give you an example. Donald Trump has put a 50% tariff on lumber coming from Canada. All right. Is it the government of Canada that's shipping it across and paying the tax on the value of the goods? No, because the lumber doesn't belong to to the country of Canada. The country of Canada sold the rights to log that timber to some company. That company cuts down the logs, and then they are the ones that take them into the United States. Maybe it's a United States company. Maybe it's a company that's owned by the United States. Maybe it has some subsidiary. But the instant that trade happens between goods that were produced or milled or mined or whatever in Canada, once it comes across the border, we have to put a 50% tariff on it. Who pays the tariff? It's the company doing the importing. That's who pays the tariff. The company, Not Canada. Canada has nothing to fucking do with it anymore. They sold the rights to the timber to this company, and they cut it down, and now they're doing what they do with it. Now, how the hell does that work? So now the company is going to lose all this money paying this tax. Well, no, they're not, because they're going to pass the cost along to the end consumer. So the lumber that comes across becomes more expensive, and it becomes more expensive to build a house or to make toilet paper or to make toothpicks, whatever you're using the lumber for. All of those things become more expensive. So the cost of your toothpicks goes from $2 a box to $3 a box. The cost of your 2x4 goes from $5 to $7.50. And that's who pays the tariffs. You. You and you and you, whoever it is that's buying the good at the end pays the tariff. You're the one being taxed. Tariffs do not fucking help. It is not the 19th century anymore. These old economic rules no longer work. It doesn't work. You can't force factories to appear in America to mass produce shit that you want to be built in America that we've been buying from overseas for the last 3 decades. Those factories don't exist. They're not here. And whether you want to build a factory or not doesn't really matter, does it? Nobody has a magic fucking wand to make a damn teddy bear factory appear in Oshkosh, Ohio. Is that a real place? Did I just make that up? I don't even know. Trump lies about tariffs because he doesn't fucking understand them. He doesn't know. And then there's people who lie to cover shit up. They know they've done something wrong, but they're lying to cover it up. Or they're lying to pass the buck. They're lying to avoid accountability. That's a pretty obvious lie. And then there's the worst lie. And that's the malevolent lie. That's the evil lie. That's what gaslighting is. Telling people that the things that they see aren't what they see. That we actually know what we're doing when we put 261 Venezuelan murderers and rapists on planes and sent them to Colombia or to El Salvador. Think about this for a second. They were already in U.S. custody. They're claiming they're all murderers and rapists. Where are the criminal cases that prove them to be murderers and rapists? Where are the victims of the murders and the rapes? Where are the victims? Where was the due process for that part of it? Wasn't any. This is the trust me bro part of the administration. An administration that lies and gaslights nonstop is saying, trust us, bro. We know what's best. They don't. They don't have any fucking idea what they're doing. They're moving fast. They're breaking shit. They're being as mean as they can be. They're flexing their muscles because they think that they've got the dictator on their side. And they do. They do. We are suffering through a fascist takeover of our country. And we were woefully unprepared for it, which is wild because there were voices everywhere saying, this is happening. This is what they're going to do. And all of us, I was among them, were right. We were right. Of course, saying I told you so doesn't really help the situation now, but maybe it'll help going forward. The people are standing up, and the media needs to start covering it better. Fox News will never cover the protests. They won't. The Trump regime is doing everything they can to make it an unsustainable media ecosystem by threatening lawsuits for everything. And even if you win a lawsuit, you still have to dole out all the money for all the legal representation. Oh, and by the way, he's also targeting specific law firms for their work when they do legal representation for his political opponents when they dare to sue him on behalf of someone else. Yeah. Fascism. Trying to scare all the law firms into not bringing suit against him. This is all happening in the open. He's signing executive orders saying we will not allow government contracts to clients of these law firms, which is just wildly illegal. It's a violation of the First, Fifth, and a couple other amendments. It's basically breaking the rule of law. It's just breaking the rule of law. And that's what they've been doing since they took over. Just break everything. People are standing up. The protests are growing. The protests are growing in size. They're growing in number. They're everywhere. Kind of like the measles right now. Just popping up and moving around. What's more contagious? Anti-fascism or the measles? I'll leave it up to you to decide. But for now, the best things that we can do, pay attention. Make sure that you keep your head about you, though. Remember to be smart. Remember to be wise. Stay informed. And don't back down. When you get a chance, I recommend going to a town hall or a protest. When you see one happening, maybe take the rest of your day and try to join it. They're looking to privatize the post office. Every city in America has a post office. Pretty much. I mean, there's some really tiny rural towns that don't. Really tiny. But they're going to privatize the post office. And what does that mean? It means that they're going to be running it purely for profit. The post office is set up. It's the only United States department that is completely set up in the Constitution. It is a requirement of our government that they maintain a publicly available post office that serves every single American. It's right there in the Constitution, man. They're laying off 10,000 postal employees this week, apparently. And the post office, the postmaster general, that's his name, was Louis DeJoy. He was originally appointed by Trump after they fired the last guy. Then Biden and crew didn't fire DeJoy because they didn't feel like it was the right thing to do because they didn't have the votes and they didn't want to force it through, which is fucking ludicrous. Trump gets back into office and tells DeJoy to resign, and he does. And Donald Trump is out loud mused about taking over the post office himself. Hilarious. So if you want to join a protest, take a look at their post office. See if they're protesting down there. They very well might be as you listen to this. It's such a dumb fascist movement too. It's so dumb. It's so stupid. It's so incompetent. So foolish, so petty, so bullshit. It's a difficult time, and it's hard to keep your sanity, but do the best you can. Do the best you can to keep your head about you and keep performing the little kindnesses that make us good people. Saying hello, opening doors for strangers, friends. Definitely open doors for your friends. Make new friends. Don't hole up. Try to stay at least somewhat social. And these are the things that push us forward. So I'll be back soon. Back to probably regular scheduled programming next week. But I do appreciate all of you for listening this far. Almost a half an hour. Actually, probably right at a half an hour now. But I do appreciate you so very much. Please share this podcast with a friend. I forgot to thank everybody for joining me again. Thank you for joining me on Trent Takes On. I'm Trent. And I just started talking today and just... But I do appreciate you hanging with me for this long. Please share this with a friend. My number for last week was down considerably. I'm very disappointed. I don't know what happened. Maybe the naming wasn't very good. I'll come up with a better name for this one. It'll be fun. And we will talk to you next week. Until then, thank you all so very much one last time. Be good humans. Talk to you soon. Love you.